Okay, and we're live. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Tea Time SEO. This week is no exception. We bring three great speakers to share their knowledge with you today, ably supported by myself and Carrie from the Authoritas team. Today, we're going to be talking about the practical implementation of user intent, and I'm delighted to welcome, in no particular order, Christopher Hofman Laursen, who's from Impact Extend, all the way from Copenhagen. He knows a lot about user intent, because I think he was one of the very first users of our Authoritas SERPs API. So he was probably one of the first people to see our user intent algorithm working in English and in Danish. We're delighted to have you here, Christopher. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
He is joined all the way over in Rome from Beatrice Gamba, who's at WordLift.io. If you don't know WordLift, they've got an excellent plugin for WordPress, which we use. And if you want to know about optimizing your content semantically, structured data, knowledge graph, all those kind of things, then check out their website. So welcome, Beatrice.
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least is Lidia Infante. She's all the way from Sheffield, but I believe she's moved there from Barcelona, which is absolutely crazy. I mean, let's face it, even though I do love Sheffield. She's at Rise at 7, a really good creative agency that back that up with great technical SEO knowledge. I know Stephen Kenwright's been on our shows from time to time and contributed to our blog. So we're delighted to have you here today, Lydia. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so just one little thing for everybody. We've set up a little community called the Optimizers recently. You're all very welcome. I know Christopher's in there. For the rest of you, please join. It's free, and it's just a great place to hang out, share SEO tips and tricks and content, and we'd love to see more of you there. So without further ado, I'll let Christopher just give himself a quick intro, and we'll do a quick round of intros, and then Christopher's going to kick us off. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. My name is Christopher, and this is the third time that I'm presenting at Tea Time SEO. Really like the concept, the format. And I'm a lead SEO at Impact Extend in Copenhagen, which is a digital agency, strategic digital agency. And we're part of the Impact Group, 200 people developing big platform projects, mostly in Denmark, but also looking very much at the international, at a European level at least. And I've been an SEO consultant for 5 years now, 3 years here and 2 years at Group M. And every day I help larger B2B and B2C companies in Denmark, but also more and more internationally and globally to rank at the top of Google.
Thanks, Christopher. Over to Beatrice.
Yeah, hi. I am here in Rome, and I am an SEO strategist at WordLift, where we developed a plugin that does the heavy work for you and for your SEO by injecting metadata by creating a knowledge graph and organizing your content in order to rank well. That is basically what we do. And what I do every day, and so let the AI do the work.
Glad to hear someone's doing the work, Beatrice. And lastly, Lydia.
Hi, I'm Lydia. I'm currently leading the international SEO team at the agency Rise at 7, making sure that we can deliver all the amazing digital PR and technical SEO that we usually do for other countries in any language. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm quite experienced working with European markets, also Australia, New Zealand, and across the Atlantic with the USA. And I have a bit of a background in psychology, content, and e-commerce. So that's me.
Perfect. Thanks, Lydia. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the practical implementation of user intent, and Christopher's going to get us started. Let's go. Christopher, I think you just might have muted yourself because we've just lost your audio.
I'm back.
Okay, good man.
Thank you, Lawrence. Yeah, exactly. I when I saw the topic, I thought, okay, why don't I show actually how we work with user intent today? Because actually this is something which is more and more is taking over the old school way of doing keyword analysis. So I'm trying to find a more agile way of working with SEO. And basically what we're doing here is we're developing what we call customer journey mapping. And customer journey mapping is a way to visualize actually the user intents of any given persona towards an objective, right? So in this example I have here, we're working with a large builder of playgrounds worldwide, and what we see here is actually for the topic natural playgrounds, we see going through the funnel, we can see what are people searching for on Google, and the size of every bubble is a user intent. It goes from very generic to very concrete, and the size of the bubble tells us how big is the search volume for this user intent, and also the color will show how well is the company performing, right? So green, they're in the top 3 of Google. Yellow, they're still on page 1 from 4 to 10, and red, then we're basically we're out of page 1 and out of the view of the users. So I think this is a great starting point actually to understand user intent, and it's a great tool across the marketing division to really understand your client. And I would say actually, many agencies work with topic clusters. This is like a topic cluster 2.0 because it takes the full funnel into perspective, and in that way we can understand what are the symptom searches at the beginning, what are customers searching for after sales, and it really gives us an idea of what content should we build to match these user intents. So that's the first part of it, actually trying to map out user intents. So the next thing is basically, okay, we'll do some content mapping, and then we're actually dividing these user intents into real tasks. So the thing is to organize the user intents into tasks. So which pages have to be optimized for the user intents, what new pages have to be developed, and really trying to describe the projects to our clients in order for them to actually assign anyone in the marketing department to run with these tasks. We use Asana for this. You can also use Monday, and it's 100 times better than an Excel sheet with some explanations which will always get lost. I mean, even something which is in a Google Sheet will also get lost. But Asana is really a great tool to keep all the knowledge in one place. And I would say, I mean, for the impact organization, we use Jira for the big development projects, and Jira is way too advanced for this kind of projects. So find an agile project management tool if you really want to make sure that you have a team handling the tasks. So and it's a great place to keep knowledge in one place. And then, of course, when we have mapped out these different tasks, then the third part of this is the practical implementation of user intents. So if you go to the next slide. So this is basically, of course, we have a page. We can see, user intent. We can detect that from Google Search Data. Google Search Console data is a really good place to understand if there are intents that we're not covering today. Of course, we use third-party tools such as Ahrefs or SEMrush to understand content gaps which are not revealed in Search Console data. And with this data in hand, we can actually go in and optimize the different pages. So, of course, you will have I don't have to run through all the things that you do on the page to optimize it, but I think I would like to point out that the new user intents is definitely a big part of improving pages, and it's really an important exercise in understanding when a user intent is fitted on a page or not. And I think there will be a presentation later on regarding how to actually look at the Google landscape to understand what is the intent and what kind of content should you have to present this user intent on. So I'm not going to go through this. So basically, that's my point of view on practical implementation of user intent. To start out, doing a big customer journey map, a topic cluster 2.0, breaking up these user intents into manageable tasks in Asana or Monday, and then afterwards the practical implementation where you're really aware if it's the right user intent on the right page.
Perfect. Thanks, Christopher. Well, that leads nicely into Beatrice, who can talk a little bit about implementation, I'm sure. So Beatrice, over to you.
Yeah. So when I started updating this presentation and thinking about how am I going to handle this, I said, well, it's practical, so let's put into words what I'm currently doing as I'm managing the editorial process by giving SEO insights to a Fortune 500 Italian company. And we are handling them insightful as semantic SEO reports for each piece of content that they will produce. Yeah, this is just a recap of what I'm going to talk about. So we will unite human work and machine work. So to prepare these briefs in no time. So we start, of course, with human thinking. So we analyze the 3 topics. Usually the company give us the topics that they want to write about. So we just go a bit further. So the topic was smart buildings. So we just added smart automation and smart home solutions. So we generated search intents. You can do that with Google Auto Suggest or any other tool in order to analyze the top 10. This is the screenshot of a WordLift tool. So we took into consideration a bit more than 10, but then in the end you have to take just a few. Of course, here we took the one that have the best volume and low competitiveness, so it gets a bit of a long tail work. Then we can move forward. Then this is where we bring the knowledge graph. So we let the knowledge graph classify each term that we have selected. We used in this case the API of WordLift in order to extract the entities from the themes, the topics that we provided. So actually entities are different from intents, but they can classify the queries. So we get closer to the user intent. So here we selected the top entities. Sometimes you already have them in the knowledge graph. Sometimes you can get a gap analysis, so you can see, I don't have this company sells like gas for electric vehicles. So they also sell smart home solutions. So we want to see what we haven't covered yet on their blog. So we had other, as you can see from the screenshot, we had other entities. We had smart urban design, public lighting, but we didn't have smart office and smart building, which was the main topic. So this works also as a sort of a gap analysis. So then moving forward, we also generated a list of the frequently asked questions in order to enrich our brief, so that the agency can cover more topics also inside the piece of content, dividing the H2 with questions in order to make the content more valuable also for the user. And then we gave them also an extract of text summary of text generation, also with this one's done with WordLift API. So we let the machine extract the questions and the answers. So basically we provided in this brief, using both human work and machine work, we provided the intents from Google. We made them actionable and united them with knowledge graph insights. Then we extracted questions, and we made a bit of the work for them by sending over a machine written text.
Lawrence, you're mute.
Sorry, I'm muting myself there because my dog, I don't know whether you could hear it, my dog was smashing its dog bowl against the floor, which is always good in the middle of a presentation. So thanks, Beatrice. Lots of questions that I'm sure will come out of that. And if anyone's the guys watching online, think about your questions. Lydia, I'll let you finish off. Thank you.
Sure. So I'm going to take a little bit of a step back, and I'm going to try to teach you how to practically implement user intent in your keyword mapping, in your keyword research, and within your content production, which should also, as an added bonus, help you with the rest of your stakeholders. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to identify user intent. And to do that, we're going to choose our intent framework. There are different intent frameworks running around. I quite like the see, think, do, care. There are different models that you can choose. I would recommend, if there's one framework already in use within your organization, you're going to get better buy-in if you use the same model. Something else that you can do if you have pretty classic stakeholders is just use the classic marketing funnel as your intent framework, and that should be all right. Once you know what keyword you're wanting to target or what set of keywords you want to target, you should be identifying the top 10 results that and the main keyword that those URLs are ranking for, right? The keyword with the most volume. After that, if we can move, thank you. If we, what you should do here is you should be looking at the content that's already ranking. So I like to take a good look at the top 10, but I really focus on the top 3 because that's where we want to go. And also examine the SERPs. Are we seeing Google rank maps? Are we seeing Google rank videos? Are we seeing Google rank images? Other people, are they ranking with FAQs? We really need to take a good look at that. After that, we should already know what the intent for keywords is, but we can validate the intent with a tool, which also helps you get stakeholder buy-in. You can do Systrix. I really like Keyword Insights. Authoritas is also obviously very good. And you can do it in bulk in some of those, just basically get what you've learned in writing within your own intent framework. Then what you're going to do is you're going to want to communicate intent to your creative teams. The first thing, obviously, is let them know that your content team understands what you mean when you talk about user intent. Share your chosen framework and any documentation that you think they're going to need. I also recommend including the user intent in your briefs. So just make a note whether the blog post or the page needs to be see, think, do, care, in my case, or whatever framework you are trying to use in your case. Think ahead and request the visual content when you need it. You will have noticed this on the SERPs. So you might be needing a map, you might be needing a table, you might be needing just images and videos. You need to ask that well ahead of time. And when you're reviewing the content, once you've received it and you're in the QA phase, you really want to make a point of QAing intent as well. So you put yourself in the user's shoes and check whether or not you as the user have been satisfied. You also want to incorporate user intent within your keyword mapping. Think about business goals. Every keyword, every piece of content has a business goal behind it, and it should align really well with the user intent that you're trying to rank for. We're not ranking for the sake of ranking, for the most part. We're ranking because we're chasing after a business goal. And yeah, you really need to have that in mind. You really need to communicate this to your stakeholders because it's going to make your life 1,000 times easier. And if you're not doing keyword mapping yet, you definitely need to, because otherwise you might end up with redundant content, cannibalization, or a mismatch of intent and content. So that's what I have for you.
I'm muted again. This time it was my daughter ringing, not the dog banging its bowl. So Lydia, thank you so much for some practical suggestions there. We've got a few 10 minutes or so left. Carrie, have you got any questions from the crowd?
We don't have any yet, but I think you've got some, don't you?
Always have some questions, always too many. But so everyone who's watching online, come on, let's have your questions. But in the interim, I'll start with a couple. So let me just start with Christopher, since you kicked us off, you're talking about the customer journey map. You had the funnel diagram of awareness through to action and loyalty. To what extent do you customize that buyer journey for different customers, or is it fairly generic, sort of awareness through to acquisition, through to, purchase and loyalty?
Yeah, I wish it was as I wish I could standardize it, right?
Okay.
Every case is different, and the conversations are very different. You can see in the medical industry, for instance, we've done one about cancer. Everything is about very early funnel, lots of questions there, right? And when you are, if it's a hardcore B2C company, then everything is about the messy middle and the lower funnel searches. So it's really different. And also, as I just want to point out, as Lydia explained so fine, that every company has their own type of way of calling the customer journey in one way or the other, right? I have this awareness, interest, desire, action, but it's also very important for me to tap into what are the words that the company use for their kind of funnel, right? If it's But just a little point on the side, but yeah, Lawrence, it's different every time. You never know what you walk into.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that everyone looks at their business slightly differently, and you've got to try and present the data in a way that is meaningful for the company. And if they look at their business through a certain lens, then that's what you need to do. Just sort of skipping through the content, Beatrice, you obviously we're a WordLift user, so we're probably at the novice scale of WordLift implementation. I'm really excited about the possibilities, especially using it with some of our big data, where we do content strategy clusters at scale for an industry. I think it could be fascinating to map that with a knowledge graph, and that's probably one for another day. But I was really interested in your AI writing capabilities. That's not something I'd come across before. So is the AI just writing sort of snapshots of answers to questions that then the client can implement? Or is it, how far is it going? Is it writing meta titles and descriptions, or is it just supplemental sort of helpful text?
Actually, we start from a very basic document that the client provides us with. There is the title, which is not obviously, it's just everything is just a draft. So we are currently directing a lot while we have this first draft. Then after we handle them our brief, then we see the piece of content which is totally different from where they started with, from what they started with. So I think that the AI, the summary, the last point of my presentation is very useful, because actually that it's like a summarization of SERP results. So you really have all in there. So that would really just make it up for everything else. You can grab your entities, your keywords, and the most important topics to talk about in your piece of content just out of that. Because it gives you a summarization of everything that's important and everything that other users looked for on that few topics.
So if I'm looking at a keyword or keywords, and I analyze the top 10 SERPs, I might look at the content, which is sort of Lydia was talking about, looking at the content, looking at the videos that are there, but you're also extracting the entities. Lydia, is that something you do manually at the moment in your work with your clients? Do you also sort of look at use of structured data and extract entities from the top ranking sites as well?
Yeah, we do that at scale as well. I think there are different approaches that you can take to SEO. There's people that are doing a very manual, small thing. There's people who are doing a thing at scale. Also, in-house versus agency is very different. We try to do a little bit of everything, but we're obviously an agency, so we work agency style. When it comes to doing user intent in bulk, we basically adapt to what we're seeing that's the main need. So for a client that's very advanced, you would be looking at extracting entities and analyzing it that way. But for someone that's needs a little bit more help on the basic scale of things, you will look at simpler things.
Okay, you won't blind them with science too early. Okay.
Exactly, and help them get buy-in internally, because in-house teams struggle a lot with that.
On your slides, Lydia, you talked about. Let me just have a look. You talked about looking at a keyword in your process. Are you talking keyword singular when you do that analysis and then create a content brief, or are you talking about a cluster of related keywords?
I always mean a cluster. I keep forgetting to bring it up, but yeah, sometimes it's better to refer to it as keywords. Otherwise, you have to keep explaining what a cluster is, depending on your audience, right? Yeah, I usually look at clusters, but when you're looking at a cluster, you're either going to grab your main keyword to check at the SERPs, or you're going to grab a group of your main keywords. What I like doing is if I look at the top 10 and I look at what's the main keyword that those URLs are ranking for, which is not necessarily my keyword, right? It's just the one that they're ranking for that has the most volume. I like looking at that because it helps me understand a little bit more the ecosystem of the keyword and what the user is looking for and how Google's relating one keyword to the other. So I think that's really interesting. And sometimes I like the more boutique approach when I have the time and the dedication to actually go through this process in a more manual way rather than in a big way, because I feel like I learn a lot more about what's happening behind the scenes with the algorithm.
Well, look, there's a huge amount we could cover on this topic, and we've only literally got half an hour today, enough for a cup of tea and a cake. And I didn't even get my cake today. But I noticed on your slides you shared a link to the sort of keyword mapping exercise you do. And I think what we've always tried to do with this is try and keep it as practically minded as possible. You also mentioned content briefs. Is that something you could share to the audience? Do you have an example template of what a content brief is so they can actually take that kind of methodology when they want to try and get started with user intent, and actually, even if they're briefing an in-house team or let alone another agency, give them an example of kind of how to actually practically implement it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually quite proud of our content briefs because they really streamline content production and help us keep it really tight with entities and user intent and all of that. And it makes our content creators happy that they're not looking at a vague concept of what we want, but a very specific thing. I can't share one straight away, but I'm going to be writing about today's Tea Time SEO session, picking up some of the great advice that Beatrice and Christopher have for us, and I can add a link to that and share it with everybody.
Well, I think that would be wonderful. I think that's a really sort of a practical measure for people to implement it. And obviously, you can't get more practical than installing the WordLift WordPress plugin in your blog. So if you've got WordPress and you haven't done that already, get started. I'm sure they offer a free trial. Speaking for Andrea and Beatrice now. But okay, so I'm just going to finish up. I know that you need to drop off at 1:30 for a meeting anyway. So Carrie, unless we've got any other last burning question from the audience.
I think we can put them on Twitter. So if everyone joins us on Twitter, we'll put them on there. And if you guys can answer them there. Does that sound like a plan?
I think that sounds like a good plan. Thank you ever so much, everybody. We will no doubt see you again in a month's time at the next Tea Time SEO. I think topic to be decided right at the end of July. That's the 29th of July, so summer in the UK will be over by then. And hopefully England will have won the Euros by then, but if not, at least Denmark or the Italians or the Spanish, we don't mind. But we've got to get past the Germans. So hopefully we'll do that, and we'll see you all at Tea Time SEO next time. Thanks ever so much, Lydia, Beatrice and Christopher. All the best.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone watching online. Thank you. Bye-bye.